books. You're really missing out by not reading them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask a question. How many of us here have read a book in the last week? And no, anything office-related or research journal doesn't count. Okay. One hand. Thank you. Okay, 2 hands. Awesome. What are your reading habits? Do your daily reading habits center around tweets, Facebook updates, or the directions on your instant oatmeal packet? If you're one of countless people who don't make a habit of reading regularly, you might be missing out, as stated by Lifehack. Ladies and gentlemen, although the written word has been around for a long time, books only came about late in the 15th century. From 1490 AD to 1500 AD, quote, Gutenberg's invention of mechanical movable type press led to a mass revolution of printing activities, and by the end of the 15th century, printing had spread to no less than 236 countries in Europe, with more than 20 million books produced, end quote. Ladies and gentlemen, this shows that since the 15th century, millions upon millions of books, millions of authors, millions of genres have come out. However, despite the massive number of books that are available, not everyone is reading like they should be. According to the Statistics Brain Research Institute, the total percent of young people who claim they read more than 10 books a year is only 56%. This is only a little bit above half. That shows that if you meet a random young person, there's only a 56% chance that they're reading up to 10 books in a year. And that's not even up to 1 book per month. In addition, the statistics also show that the total percentage of college students who will never read another book after they graduate is a whopping 42%. This is over a third of college students. That means that 1 in every 3 college students will never pick up a book again after they graduate. And this is very, very sad indeed. Despite the convenience of e-books, which allow one to carry multiple books around with them wherever they're going to, and with, quote, Amazon's release of the first ever dedicated e-book reader on November 19, 2007, which they named the Kindle, now sells in large volumes, end quote, people still aren't reading as much as they should be. However, what a lot of people do not know is that reading has multiple benefits, and early reading is the key. According to Abigail Wise, quote, exposure to new vocabulary from reading not only leads to higher scores on reading tests, but also higher scores on general tests of intelligence. Plus, stronger early reading skills may mean higher intelligence later in life, end quote. In addition, reading and writing are the core of everything that we do. Writing is a skill that is very valued in today's workplace, and one simply cannot be a good writer if one is not also a good reader. It's the same way with solving math problems. You can't be a good mathematician if you don't regularly solve math problems. And reading enables you to see the patterns, to see the structure, to see the syntax from authors, those you love, those that you're forced to read in class. And of course, I work at a writing center as a writing center consultant, and I'm also a psychology major. So whenever someone comes into the writing center and they're usually expressing a deep-rooted, very, very deep-rooted dislike of reading and writing an extension, I usually probe them a bit, but don't tell them that. And I ask them this question: do you have a favorite author? Do you have a favorite book that you like to read? Unfortunately, the answer is usually no. And when I do suggest that you might be better off if you actually pick up an author or pick up a book and read, it'll get your creative juices flowing, they usually stare at me as though I've asked them to do something as odd as to juggle while dancing the Macarena. Like, the idea is so far-fetched, so out of their scope that they cannot imagine having the joy of reading, having the desire to read, simply based on the intrinsic motivation that it will give you, simply based on a love of wanting to learn, wanting to explore new worlds that you can get by diving into the various authors, various genres that they are available. However, it seems that all is not quite lost. According to Common Sense Media, quote, Harry Potter and the Hunger Games haven't been big hits for nothing. Lots of teens and adolescents still read quite a lot, but a roundup of studies shows a clear decline over time. Nearly half of 17-year-olds say they read for pleasure no more than 1 or 2 times a year, if that. That's way down from a decade ago, end quote. As we can see, ladies and gentlemen, even with the mass-produced movies that are based off of books, very few people are actually reading these books, but instead more people are watching the movies. However, all is not totally lost. Who can turn the situation around? Why, you and me. Common Sense Media goes on to say that, quote, kids with parents who read, who buy, or take books out of the library for their kids, and who then set time aside in their kids' daily schedule for reading tend to read the most. This shows that the ability to read, the joy of reading, incorporating a reading culture comes from us as parents, as brothers and sisters, as family members. It is up to us to inspire people to read books. It is up to us to inculcate this habit in them, because reading, it is a learned habit. One doesn't just simply wake up as a newborn and decide, I think I'm gonna like to read books. You've got to go through the process. You've got to learn how to read. You've got to learn how to explore. You've got to move on from smaller books with pictures into larger, grandiose books. Now, I have been reading since I was old enough to read, and this is mostly due to the presence of my mom. Whenever my mom would travel on trips, whenever she'd go out to the store, it wasn't candy, it wasn't food that she brought back for us. It was books. And we had so many books at home that after a while, she had to commission a brand new bookcase, one that had a nice glass sliding door, and it had a key. Guess who had the key to this bookcase? That's right, yours truly. So I've grown up with a love for books. I've grown up with the idea that knowledge is power, that knowledge is the key, both to unlock your imaginative potential and also to unlock education in you. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time to start. It's never too late to start reading. As the statistics taken in this room have shown, many of us have not read a book in the last month, so we are part of the statistic that was shown earlier on in the slide. Therefore, what can one do? This is the time for you to pick up that Kindle that you've always had. This is the time for you to join that book club. This is the time for you to start story time with your children again. Now, I would have brought books for everyone, but I feel that if you're more involved in the process of actually buying the book, it will be better for you. I'm currently going through the Japanese version of Moby Dick, and it is a scintillating read. So, ladies and gentlemen, I enjoy you. Go out and get that book this weekend. Thank you.